Forza Motorsport is really all about cars. We do racing, we do simulation, we do Xbox Live. We've got new Kinect integration. We push features throughout the entire game, and we push and push and push innovation as fast as we can and with the highest quality we can. But really it's about getting people excited about cars. Some people get excited about racing, sim racing in particular.
Very much so.
And wheels like these, but honestly, what I want is for people to be able to, however they interface with their passion for cars, the game fits like a glove. It feels like it was made for them. So you can play with a $700 wheel with an amazing pedal system. You can use Kinect head tracking to look into the corners. You're going to see advanced physics, advanced simulation, and we're always pushing in that area if you're a pro driver. Or you can play with a controller like most people do, frankly. Or even with Kinect now, you can sit there, in my case, sit there with my son, using Kinect, split screen, drive like this, smash up cars. We're getting the next generation who's going to start moving through, finding their passion for cars and getting excited. So there's a lot of innovation to cover here, and where I actually want to start is with Kinect itself. So Forza Motorsport obviously has a long history of innovation. We are a Microsoft studio itself. Now, a couple years ago, Kudo Sonoda, who is the creative director so closely associated with the Kinect sensor, was going around to the different first-party teams, and he had this little thing. It had like a camera and IR and a microphone sticking out the side. It was on some funky tripod. The whole thing was taped together. It frankly wasn't very much to look at. But the moment I saw this sort of test environment and what it was capable of, instantly I was thrilled, because it was something I could use to go towards that vision of turning gamers to car lovers and car lovers to gamers. So we broke off a piece of our team and said, start thinking about this sensor in a new way. Now, specifically I asked, don't think about racing, and don't even think about Forza. Think about cars, and play with the sensor and come up with new ideas. So there were a lot of new ideas that came that we started incubating. Some are on the cutting room floor, and some are going to ship in Forza Motorsport 4. The first one I actually want to discuss is Auto Vista. We showed this last year in its infancy. It was just the very start of it with a 458. I think I'm actually going to switch cars. This is a cool car, but there's some other very cool cars as well. We didn't bring all of the cars, obviously, to E3, so there's only a small group that I'm showing here behind closed doors. But the approach we had here, the word that we used was desire. I wanted players sitting on their couch to want to stand up, walk up to that car, move around it, open the doors, open the trunk, and around every corner there'd be something new and interesting to explore. And I was hoping they'd think of it more like, that our team would think of it like a platformer game, like Mario. That around every corner there's some new thrill. Now, I don't think most people will know what these cars are. I mean, those of you that are auto enthusiasts probably recognize it's a 93 McLaren F1. It's a short tail. And truthfully though, I think most people won't recognize what this car is. And we have cars like the Koenigsegg, which if I wrote it down on the ground, you probably wouldn't pronounce it correctly. And the fact that I've now said it, maybe you could or could not spell it. It's a very esoteric, kind of unique, boutique-y brand. But what these cars have are amazing moments. So this car is a highly interactive car. It is very cool. And you don't have to know much about cars to look at that and go, what the hell? It's just car wonderment. Right? You can go up close, look at the titanium exhaust, take a look at the gold plating on the underside. There's a very high level of detail we've modeled here. And it actually forced us to rethink how we do rendering and how we do modeling. And this is what was interesting to me. Kinect incubated a new idea, and that new idea forced us to rethink how we do racing in general. So it actually changed the genre. It's the opposite of how most people are thinking we're going at Kinect. Most people, in the press in particular, are thinking, oh, so you're going to take your standard genre and try and stuff it in the controller. I don't get it, that's dumb. I agree, that's dumb. We're not approaching it that way. We're looking at it as this is a brand new undiscovered country. And we need to find the right experiences that fit in it, that complement the gaming you already have, or create new genres entirely. So Auto Vista, when we talk about desire, I wanted people to get into this sub 6-inch level. I wanted them getting really close to the car. And that just wasn't going to work with the kind of models that have been provided in games in the past. In fact, Most games, even the most beautiful games, are meant to be more cinematic, more expansive. So you're meant to actually look around in the environment, but if you get right up close to a wall, it kind of falls apart. This is a more introspective view, so you're getting really up close to the car, and it meant the models we had to build are the types of models that are used in car commercials and in CG rendering. We also had to change our lighting model. So what we went to is called IBL, image-based lighting. In image-based lighting, yeah, we get reflections, we get hot spots and all that. We've had that in gaming for a while. But most games, including Forza Motorsport 3, have a lighting engine for the environment and a lighting engine for the character or the car. And you tune the two so that they match very, very closely in almost all instances. And if you're a really good developer, you're able to fool people 99.9% of the time. With IBL, the car is lit by the environment. So it gets all the complex bounce lighting, you get all the diffuse shadows. Everything that should happen on a car just happens. And it means we can drop the car into any environment and it's lit. It's done. It looks great. That was something we developed so you could get up close in Auto Vista mode. But of course, once we actually developed that new lighting engine and the new shaders, so I can actually show you a little bit more detail here. Let's get in the car. This car is very unique. It's got a center driving position. And actually, as you explore the cars, you can of course turn the car on, and you can even do different tours in the car. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. We've got new shaders for Alcantara, leather, carbon fiber, because you're getting really up close. And all of that, the IBL, these high detailed textures, all of this made its way into the normal racing game as well, because we had to rethink how we rendered cars. And we'll go on track in just a second so I can show you how that looks. One last thing I want to comment on about Auto Vista and some of the ways it changed the game. We wanted people to have these cool points of interest all around the car, and Forza Motorsport is known for our credibility, our accuracy, and our authenticity, but we can be a little bit dry at times. So we entered into a long-term creative partnership with Top Gear. Top Gear is a pretty well-known brand out of the UK. They do commentary on cars, they're pretty funny. And Top Gear is providing content throughout the game. In Auto Vista, they wrote custom tours for each one of the cars, and they were recorded by Jeremy Clarkson.
Before the Bugatti Veyron, there was this, the 241-mile-an-hour McLaren F1. Despite its similar top speed, the McLaren F1 is the very opposite of the Veyron.
I'm going to cut this off so we can keep going. If you want to hear all of Jeremy and his humor, you're going to have to get fun of him. He does provide great insight, and for us it's the color commentary and the play-by-play. We are very authoritative, we are the play-by-play. We'll tell you who passed the ball and who took the shot, but he's going to tell you that guy actually sucks. And he's got his opinions about the cars, and frankly, we don't try and edit him. So if he doesn't like the car, he doesn't like the car. We're going to tell you how much horsepower it's got, we're going to tell you how fast it is, and he's going to tell you how to really feel about the car. Now, Top Gear is actually throughout the game, because this wasn't just a licensing deal, this was a creative collaboration. So they were inspiring new modes in single player, multiplayer, new ways to interface with the community. Of course, we have the Top Gear test track and we have other content in the game, but that was actually the least of our interests. The big part of the interest was blending the brands so that we could have a really creative, long-term partnership for years to come. The new career mode. Forza 3 had a career mode, it was a calendar, and based on what cars you had in your garage, you had a choice of 3 events in the calendar mode. And those read in what cars you had and gave you, a choice. But generally, most of those choices were 8-car races on some of the great tracks in the world. Now we have World Tour mode. In World Tour mode, you go from one location to the next, and again, you get a choice of tracks, or a choice of races you want to do. And the choices are based on the cars in your garage. But there are 2 big changes that change how you're going to interface with this. One is profile import. If you played a lot of Forza Motorsport 3, based on your level and the cars in your garage, we're going to gift cars into your career in Forza Motorsport 4. So you can start, as I am here, at level 0 with a Ferrari 458, which is the name of the car. And the career automatically offers up events that make sense for that car. Now this first event I'm going to do is actually a fairly standard, it's an 8-car race, but now we feature 12-car races. We even have a mode where there's an infinite number of cars, which I'll show you. We have autocross, we have time trials, we have drift events. The single player is constantly hitting you with new challenges. And our goal is that you fall in love with cars. That you're finding, it's like a playground. That there's always something new to play around with as you're playing with the cars. But why I really want to take you to this track is to show off how all of the new rendering we did that came out of AutoVista has actually changed the way the game looks itself. So this is our new track. This is the Swiss Alps. We went on location to Switzerland and to France in the Alps, which is kind of fun. And we captured some of the great driving roads that are in that area. And we tried to put them all together in such a way that we were creating a really fun, high-speed, driving experience. But more than anything, we were trying to create a gauntlet, an absolute decathlon for this new rendering engine. Traditionally, it's very hard to light anything, a character or a car, in high contrast environments like this. So we've got blooming snow, long draw distances, high detail on the environment, as well as all these rocks. A track like Sebring, Le Mans, Laguna Seca, while they're very cool tracks for those of us that love racing, they don't actually prove out your rendering engine very much because the buildings are pretty far away. Generally, it's pretty flat around outside, and there's just not a lot of detail right in your face. So building a track like this is an absolute trial for any rendering engine. And what you can see is the car is getting all that diffuse bounce light off the snow. There's hot spots that are coming from the reflections. And the car just looks seated in the environment. Let's take it on track and I can show you some of the changes in cockpit view. And the AI take over. And we'll go into cockpit view. So a couple things you can see here. You're going to see backfires coming off some of the cars. You also see active aero. It's just much more dynamic in how the racing happens. We've also done new things in physics, which I'm not going to go into, but if you ask, I would be happy to. Right now what you're seeing graphically, though, is a lot of those new shaders for the Alcantara, the aluminum, the leather, all of that, those have been integrated into the cockpit view. We've redone the cockpits of almost all of the cars. We've pulled back the camera, moved it up, tilted it down so it's a better driving view. And then also with the IBL, the interior of the cockpit is just better lit, and you're getting a lot of high contrast sweep across the environment. There's also new animations, so it's shaking more. It just makes for a very dynamic racing experience. Now, of course, all of our cars, we have hundreds of cars, they all have cockpits, they all have damage, they all have upgrades, they all have painting. We treat everything from a classic Civic all the way up to a 458 with the same level of respect. Because I don't know what kind of car you're going to love. I'm just hoping I can make you fall in love with cars no matter what they are. And on we go. Yes, I cheated. I won. I'm sure you're all very proud. The next race actually is a track day. In a track day, your goal is to pass as many cars as you can in one lap. Now, we also can do this with multiple laps, but thus far the best I've done is to pass 19 cars in one lap. But if this was 2 laps, you'd be passing, 40 cars, 3 laps, 60 cars, or if it was on the Nürburgring, you're going to pass a whole bunch of cars as well. So you get a look at this mode, but honestly, I think you probably understand the mode just from what I said as well as showing it. What I want to do is actually show you some of the new tricks our AI have. And switching around feature to feature to feature pretty quickly. One of the hardest things for a AI system to learn is how to deal with really fast closing speeds. Because generally the AI is optimized to be looking just a few, maybe 20, 30 meters ahead. So it's avoiding passing, hitting when it's passing in equally matched cars. So if you park your car on the racing line, a lot of times the AI will just pile right into you because they're not looking far enough ahead to react. Well, Forza's AI is actually based on drive-a-char technology. Okay, so I got the AI driving. This is actually our M. Rossi, who's one of the profiles drivers we have in Forza Motorsport. And our AI, the drive-a-char AI, is actually trained the same way you train a child. We expose them to different scenarios and say, do this more, do this less, deal with this scenario this way, and the more scenarios we can expose it to, the better it becomes at dealing with them. What's obvious even right here is clearly he's aware of the other cars. He's using the superior power of the 458 to go around them. He may stop just short of a car and get a little bit stymied on how do I do some complex corner, but for the most part, he's just dealing with all these cars that come, and there's no way you could think he doesn't see them. You know, clearly, he's getting off his racing line because they're blocking it. Now, it looks like we passed about 9. The target is 12, but we also have dynamic difficulty now in Forza Motorsport 4. So as you're playing through the game, as you're beating the AI by a lot, the AI not only auto-upgrades its own car, it also starts getting harder and harder and harder until you're finding that right match. And in a race like this, the target number of cars to pass would change. In an autocross, your target lap time would go down. So as you're playing through the career, it's going to find that right difficulty level for you. We're now at 14. You can see there's a whole bunch more cars up here. They just keep going and going. This just keeps happening. So having 8 car races, 12 car races, 16 car races, infinite car races, plus autocross and all this, really it's not about how many cars are on track anymore. What it's about is what kind of challenge and what kind of experience do we want to give to the player. Now in Forza 1, when you hit a player level, we gave you one option of car, we basically gifted you a car. In Forza 4, we're actually giving you options. So based on your level, maybe it's going to be 2, maybe it's going to be 5. It changes based on what we're trying to give you as options. And then as DLC becomes available, it automatically gets sucked into this. So as you're leveling up, maybe a month later, we've offered up some DLC. At a certain level, one of those cars will be offered up as a gift card. Now where this becomes more interesting is how it interacts with the career options itself. Because the career feeds up events based on the cars in your garage and based on the cars you like to drive. So having an option of what gift car you have changes the options of what races you have to play with. The whole thing just means that your career and my career are completely different. So even right there was a Mitsubishi Colt, Japanese car, we had the Fiat, European car, and we had the Fiesta, an American car. And so you're kind of making those allegiances, those affiliations, saying, no, I'm going to choose American cars, which means you're going to be in more American races. Now, I'm not going to do this last race. This one would take place on Suzuka, Japan, and it would actually show off our dynamic time of day. It's not, well, our alternate time of day that happens using IBL. So it's a heat race, and the first race would take place at noon, and it's a high sun and all that. And then the second heat takes place around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. You're getting that sunset, the nice roasted orange kind of baking in on the car. And the IBL just makes it look really nice. But the reason we did it is actually to give you more variety in your career. So rather than having one 10-minute long race, we can break it into 2 5-minute races, getting more passing, more thrilling action, and get more variety through the career. I mentioned Auto Vista and how that was innovation with Connect. You've seen, hopefully down there on the show floor, we have Connect head tracking. We also have Connect driving for, if you're sitting there with your son or with your friends. It's not really about the hardcore racer, it's really just about having fun. We also have Connect voice, Forza, community. Now, what this does is opens up the game to the hardcore player. So this is a way where Connect is not just serving the casual with this, but it's actually serving the core. As you know, Forza Motorsport's got a huge user interface. It's got multiple levels of painting and upgrading, tuning, and community areas and all this stuff. And this means you can be 4 levels deep in the upgrade area, and you can say, Forza, paint. It's going to save your work, back out, and go down to the painting area. You can say, Forza, buy car. It's going to back out and go in there. Forza, community, you'll come over here. Next race, it's going to jump over there. So we're not replacing the A button, because frankly, the A button is pretty easy to hit on a controller. We're actually opening up the game based on your knowledge of the game. So if you're a hardcore player, Connect helps you out quite a bit. We're on the community homepage. On the community homepage, there's lots of news. I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's your one-stop shop for everything you want to know about. You'll see 2 channels in here in particular, Car Clubs and Rivals. Those are new features. Cancel. Car Clubs works roughly how you'd expect. You create a car club, we can all join, there's presidents and co-presidents. But where it gets more interesting and when it gets translated into the Forza universe, we have shared cars. Some cars are pretty expensive. So I can buy a Bugatti Veyron, you can buy a Reventon. And if I share my Veyron, all of you guys can use it. You share your Reventon, all of us can use it. That's pretty cool too, and you can have a big shared garage. It means you can kind of do like a cooperative where you're kind of sharing your money and buying cars. It's a lot cooler when you think about tuning and painting. Because if there's a great tuner in your group, he doesn't have to trade files with you, and you don't have to buy stuff off the auction house and do all of that. If you got a great tuner, you can say, hey buddy, get me a 458, upgrade to Class S, and optimize it for Silverstone. Or get me a Sylvia and make it a great drift car. And all of us can use it whenever we want. He doesn't have to be online. Painting's the same way. As you can expect, a great painter is going to make all of your garage cars much better. Rivals mode. This is asynchronous play. In Rivals mode, there's multiple channels. Hot lap, time spec, hot lap with traffic, right? That unlimited amount of cars. We have drift, we have autocross. We also have monthly challenges that the community can decide what they want in there, and we'll reboot those monthly. In each of those channels, there's a challenge. So, for example, this one is hot lapping on the Alps in a Class S car. What we're going to do is feed up someone who's really well matched with you based on your skill level for you to go headhunt. If you beat them, you get a bounty. And even if you don't beat them and you try, you still get XP and you level up. So in many ways, this is a social way to go through single player. You can do the entire, get all the levels just by playing against your rivals. Now I can pick any rival I want. I can go after the top guys in the scoreboard. The bounty will go up. And whenever I beat someone, they get a message saying, hey, you just got beaten. Do you want to challenge them back? And they can go try and retake the time. We also have 16-player multiplayer. I'm not going to go deep into that. We've got new physics things. I'm not going to go deep into that. I will say about 16-player multiplayer, I am not the greatest racer out there in the world. And the reason I like Rivals mode is because at any one time you try and get into a race, there's not everybody, not all your friends are online, and not everybody want to launch right now, and not everyone wants to drive the track you want to drive or the class you drive. So you get matchmaked with a group of people that are very disparate in their skill levels. So 16-player multiplayer just means there's now even more people that are going to get their asses handed to them. That's not very fun for me. Where it gets more interesting is tag, virus, demolition derby, all these other types of play that are more cooperative. 16-player starts making a lot of sense. Really what this comes down to is no matter how you get excited about cars, if you're a multiplayer racer, you just want to play with your friends, you paint, you tune, you upgrade, anything you want to do in kind of the world of cars, we support in this game. Play with a high-end wheel, play with a more approachable wheel, play with no wheel at all, use a controller, use Kinect, multiplayer painting, tuning, upgrading, hundreds of cars. This game is enormous. And the goal is that no matter what type of player you are, you think the game was made 100% for you. That's why we push and we innovate across the boards. We're not just trying to say, we've got this Kinect, we got some new things here, so we're done. Right? We don't just add a couple new cars and tracks. We don't just do a little bit here in the lighting or try and make it a little bit better. We innovate and innovate and innovate wherever we can. That doesn't mean we do every feature under the sun. Of course, we do ship every 2 years, and that's important to us. Having contact with our fans. We have the community where they can give us feedback and we react. There's a lot of other features going in there based on our community feedback. What this is all inspired by is a 3-year, a 5-year vision. I really want us to be exciting the next generation of people around cars. And it's the intersection of car culture and gaming culture. And that's two extremely diverse groups of people. So to pretend that they're all hardcore racers, or to pretend that they're all casual racers, that they all want arcade or they all want simulation is just presumptuous. We want to make a game that can work for all of them. And they don't even need to know the other guys exist. In fact, they can believe they don't. That happens quite a bit on the forums. People are like, I don't even know why they did that feature. No one plays it. And then we look at the data and we're like, actually more people play that than play the way you're playing. But I don't want to rain on your parade or anything. As long as you're happy, we're good.